Welcome to the Advantage Home Care Acceptable Use Policy training. During this training, we will cover the purpose of the policy scope, the contents of the acceptable use policy compliance, related standards, policies, and processes, and common terms and definitions used throughout the policy. Let's get started. The Advantage Home Care Acceptable Use Policy is designed to help protect Advantage Home Care's employees, partners, and the company from illegal or damaging actions caused by individuals, either knowingly or unknowingly. This policy covers internet, intranet, and extranet related systems, including but not limited to computer equipment, software, operating systems, storage media, network accounts providing electronic mail, web browsing, and FTP. These items are considered the property of Advantage Home Care. These systems are to be used only for business purposes in serving the interest of the company and our clients and customers during normal operations. Effective electronic security is a team effort. It is important that we have the participation and support of every Advantage Home Care employee and affiliate who deals with information and/or information systems to ensure we are acting in accordance with the acceptable use policy at all times. It is the responsibility of every computer user to know these guidelines and to conduct their activities accordingly. Let's talk about the purpose of the acceptable use policy. The policy aims to outline the acceptable use of computer equipment at Advantage Home Care. These rules are in place to protect the employee and Advantage Home Care. Inappropriate use exposes Advantage Home Care to risks, including virus attacks, compromise of network systems and services, and legal issues. Now that you have an understanding of the purpose of this policy, let's discuss the policy scope. This policy applies to the use of information, electronic and computing devices, and network resources to conduct Advantage Home Care business or interact with internal networks and business systems, whether owned or leased by Advantage Home Care, the employee, or a third party. Ultimately, you are responsible. In fact, all employees, contractors, consultants, temporary and other workers at Advantage Home Care and its subsidiaries are responsible for exercising good judgment regarding appropriate use of information, electronic devices, and network resources in accordance with Advantage Home Care policies and standards and local laws and regulations. This policy applies to employees, contractors, consultants, temporaries, and other workers at Advantage Home Care, including all personnel affiliated with third parties. This policy also applies to all equipment that is owned or leased by Advantage Home Care. So no matter how you are affiliated with Advantage Home Care, it is important to understand and adhere to the terms of this policy. We are all in this together. Now that you have an understanding of the policy purpose and scope, let's dive into the policy's general use and ownership. Advantage Home Care's proprietary information stored on electronic and computing devices, whether owned or leased by Advantage Home Care, the employee, or a third party, remains the sole property of Advantage Home Care. Let's talk about your roles and responsibilities according to the acceptable use policy. As an Advantage employee, you have a responsibility to promptly report the theft, loss, or unauthorized disclosure of Advantage Home Care proprietary information or any equipment containing this information. You may access, use, or share Advantage Home Care proprietary information only to the extent it is authorized and necessary to fulfill your assigned job duties. As an employee, you are also responsible for exercising good judgment regarding the reasonableness of personal use. The corporate office is responsible for creating guidelines concerning personal use of internet, intranet, and extranet systems. In the absence of corporate policies, employees should be guided by company policies on personal use. And if there is any uncertainty, Employees should consult their supervisor or manager. Printing or storing client information is strictly prohibited. Employees are strictly prohibited from printing client lists unless approved by leadership. Employees must also refrain from saving client contact information in their phones or in any other manner that has the potential to expose our clients' information in an adverse way. Be advised that Advantage may monitor company systems at any time for security purposes. For security and network maintenance purposes, authorized individuals within Advantage Home Care may monitor equipment, systems, and network traffic at any time to ensure compliance and security. Authorized individuals within Advantage Home Care will perform periodic walkthroughs to identify instances of sensitive information or systems being left unattended. This helps us protect our clients as well as each other. This also means that Advantage Home Care reserves the right to audit networks and systems on a periodic basis to ensure compliance with this policy. Deactivation of use. Authorized individuals within Advantage Home Care will disable or deactivate remote access to employees, contractors, consultants, temporaries, and other workers at Advantage Home Care, including all personnel affiliated with third parties, when their access is not authorized or in use. Security and proprietary information. System-level and user-level passwords must comply with the company password policy. Providing access to another individual, either deliberately or through failure to secure its access, is prohibited. In other words, it is your responsibility to protect your passwords at all times. For your safety and the safety of our clients, all computing devices must be secured with a password-protected screensaver with the automatic activation feature set to 60 minutes or less. You must lock your screen or log off when your device is unattended. Employees must use extreme caution when opening email attachments received from unknown senders, which may contain malware. If an email or email attachment looks suspicious, you should report it to IT support for further assistance. Do not open suspicious emails. All electronic communications that contain personal health information must be encrypted. This helps us protect our clients' personal health information. Now that we have covered acceptable use, let's talk about unacceptable use. The following activities in general are prohibited. Employees may be exempt from these restrictions during their legitimate job responsibilities. For example, systems admission staff may have a need to disable the network access of a host if that host is disrupting production services. Under no circumstances is an employee of Advantage Home Care authorized to engage in any activity that is illegal under local, state, federal, or international law while utilizing Advantage Home Care-owned resources. Before we continue, it is important to note that the statements in this training are by no means exhaustive, but attempt to provide a framework for activities which fall into the category of unacceptable use. If you are uncertain what constitutes unacceptable use, please speak with your supervisor. System and network activities. The following activities are strictly prohibited, with no exceptions. First is violation of rights. The policy regarding violation of rights reads like this: violations of the rights of any person or company protected by copyright, trade secret, patent, intellectual property, or similar laws or regulations, including but not limited to the download, installation, or distribution of pirated or other software products that are not appropriately licensed for use by Advantage Home Care. Wow, that was a mouthful. In other words, as an Advantage employee, it is important to take care to ensure you are not illegally downloading, installing, or distributing information that is not licensed to Advantage Home Care. If you are not sure, ask your supervisor. Unauthorized copy. The policy also states that unauthorized copying of copyrighted material including but not limited to digitization and distribution of photographs from magazines, books, or other copyrighted sources, copyrighted music, and the installation of any copyrighted software for which Advantage Home Care or the end user does not have an active license is strictly prohibited. If you're not sure whether information is licensed to Advantage, please speak to your supervisor before using the material in question. It is also important to note that accessing data, a server, or any account for any purpose other than conducting Advantage Home Care business, even if you have authorized access, is prohibited. Exporting any information is also covered in this policy and should be paid attention to. Exporting software, technical information, encryption software, or technology in violation of international or regional export control laws is illegal. The appropriate management should be consulted prior to export of any material that is in question. It is also important to know that accessing content that would be reasonably considered not safe for work, such as pornography, violent imagery, and other adult-oriented content, is strictly prohibited. Introduction of malicious programs into the network or server, such as viruses, worms, Trojan horses, email bombs, etc., is also strictly prohibited. Malicious programs are computer programs that are designed to harm other computers or steal information from them. These programs can cause a lot of problems if they get onto a computer or network, so it's important to not introduce them intentionally. Please also be sure to keep your passwords private. Revealing your account password to others or allowing use of your account by others is strictly prohibited. This includes your family and other household members when work is being done from home. Using Advantage Home Care computing assets to actively engage in procuring or transmitting material that is in violation of sexual harassment or hostile workplace laws in the user's local jurisdiction is strictly prohibited. Any activity of this type should be reported to the management team upon discovery. Making fraudulent offers of products, items, or services originating from any Advantage Home Care account is prohibited and may result in termination. Making statements about warranty, expressly or implied, unless it is part of your normal job duties, is not allowed. Affecting security breaches or disruptions of network communication is also not allowed. Security breaches include but are not limited to accessing data of which the employee is not the intended recipient, or logging into a server or account that the employee is not expressly authorized to access unless allowed within the scope of regular duties. Network disruption includes but is not limited to network sniffing, pinged floods, packet spoofing, denial of service, and forged routing information for malicious purposes. Let's break this down. Here, disruption means causing problems with a computer network on purpose. Network sniffing is when someone intercepts or sniffs information that is being sent over a network. Pinged floods is sending a lot of requests to a computer all at once to make it crash. Packet spoofing is sending fake information over a network to try to trick other computers into doing something they shouldn't. Denial of service is another way to cause disruption. This is where someone sends so much information to a computer that it can't handle it and stops working. Finally, there is forged routing information. This is when someone sends false information about where data should go on a network, causing confusion and disruption. All of these things are examples of disruption, but there may be other ways to cause disruption too, and all of them are not allowed. Port scanning or security scanning is also expressly prohibited unless their activity is a part of the employee's normal job or duty. Port scanning is a way for someone to check if there are any open doors on a computer or network. This can be helpful for security, but it can also be used by bad people to try to break in, so unless port scanning is part of your job, it is not allowed. No unauthorized network monitoring is allowed. executing any form of network monitoring which will intercept data not intended for the employee's host, unless this activity is a part of the employee's normal job or duty. This means that you are not allowed to secretly watch or listen to what is happening on a computer network without permission. It's like eavesdropping on someone's private conversation without them knowing it's happening. Doing so is not allowed and is a violation of rules. It is prohibited to circumvent user authentication or security of any host, network, or account. This means that it's against the rules to try to get into someone else's account or computer system if you don't have permission. Even if you know how to get around the security measures that are in place, it's not allowed. This is to keep everyone's information safe and protected. The introduction of honeypots, honeynets, or similar technology on the Advantage Home Care network is strictly prohibited as well. Honeypots, honeynets, and similar technology are things that people use to catch bad guys who try to break into computer networks. Advantage prohibits the use of honeypots or similar technology. Interfering with or denying service to any user other than the employee's host, for example, denial of service attack, is prohibited. A denial of service attack is where someone tries to make a computer or website unavailable to its intended users. They do this by overwhelming the system, making it unable to handle legitimate requests from actual users. This type of attack is illegal and prohibited. Using any program, script, command, or sending messages of any kind with the intent to interfere with or disable a user's terminal session via any means, locally or via the internet, intranet, extranet, is also prohibited. This means that it is not allowed to use any computer program, tool, or way of sending messages to stop someone else from using their computer or device. This is not allowed whether you are in the same place as them or if you are using the internet to connect to their device from far away. Doing this is against the rules. Disseminating personal health information to anyone outside of the organization without written consent from the client is strictly prohibited. It is important that we protect our clients' personal health information at all times. This includes but is not limited to the accessing, downloading, or otherwise distributing client or caregivers lists, patient medical records, timesheets, schedules, and other documentation to anyone outside of Advantage Home Care. Let's move on to company email and communication activities. When using company resources to access and use the internet, users must realize they represent the company. The following examples of email and communication activity is prohibited. Sending unsolicited email messages, including the sending of junk mail or other advertising material to individuals who did not specifically request such material, email spam, is not allowed. Advantage strictly prohibits any form of harassment via email, telephone, or paging, whether through language, frequency, or size of messages. No unauthorized use or forging of email header information is permitted. This means that it's not okay to pretend that an email is coming from someone else when it's not. You can't make it look like the email is from a different person or place than it actually is. It's important to be honest about who you are when sending company emails. Solicitation of emails for any other email address other than that of the poster's account with the intent to harass or to collect replies is strictly prohibited. This means that it is not allowed to ask people for their email addresses if you plan to use them to bother or bully them. It's also not allowed to ask for email addresses just to get a lot of responses from people. You can only ask for people's email addresses if it's for an authorized reason and you won't use them to hurt anyone. It is forbidden to create or forward chain letters, Ponzi, or other pyramid schemes of any type. This means that you should not send messages to other people telling them to send money or something else to you or to others. It's not allowed to make a promise that you'll get something in return for sending money or doing something else. This kind of message is called a chain letter or a pyramid scheme, and it's against our policy. we prohibit the use of unsolicited email originating from within Advantage Home Care's network of other internet, intranet, extranet service providers on behalf of or to advertise any service hosted by Advantage Home Care or connected via Advantage Home Care's network. This means that as an Advantage Home Care employee, you are not allowed to send emails to people who didn't ask for them. You also can't use the Advantage Network website or email addresses to send solicitation emails to promote outside services. Blogging and social media. Blogging and other social media by employees, whether using Advantage Home Care's property and systems or personal computer systems, is also subject to the terms and restrictions set forth in this policy. Limited and occasional use of Advantage Home Care's systems to engage in blogging is acceptable if it is done in a professional and responsible manner, does not otherwise violate Advantage Home Care's policy, is not detrimental to Advantage Home Care's best interests, and does not interfere with an employee's regular work duties, logging from Advantage Home Care's systems is also subject to monitoring. Advantage Home Care's confidential information policy also applies to blogging, including social media. This means employees are prohibited from revealing any Advantage Home Care confidential or proprietary information, trade secrets, or any other material covered by Advantage Home Care's confidential information policy when engaged in blogging. Employees shall not engage in any blogging that may harm or tarnish the image, reputation, and/or goodwill of Advantage Home Care and/or any of its employees. Employees are also prohibited from making any discriminatory, disparaging, defamatory, or harassing comments when blogging. Employees may also not attribute personal statements, opinions, or beliefs to Advantage Home Care when engaging in blogging. If an employee is expressing his or her beliefs and/or opinions in blogs, the employee may not expressly or implicitly represent themselves as an employee or representative of Advantage Home Care. Employees assume all risk associated with blogging. Apart from following all laws pertaining to the handling and disclosure of copyrighted or export-controlled materials, Advantage Home Care's trademarks, logos, and any other Advantage Home Care intellectual property may also not be used in connection with any blogging activity. This simply means don't use Advantage Home Care's trademarks, logos, and other special marks or intellectual property without expressed permission to do so. Policy compliance and compliance measurement. Advantage Home Care will verify compliance to this policy through various methods, including but not limited to business tool reports, internal and external audits, and feedback to the policy owner. Exceptions. Any exception to the policy must be approved by Advantage Home Care Management in advance. Non-compliance. An employee found to have violated this policy may be subject to disciplinary action, up to and including termination of employment. Related standards, policies, and processes. The following security warning will be presented at log on to RDS as a reminder for the acceptable use policy. Advantage Home Care Acceptable Use Policy. This computer system is the property of Advantage Home Care and is for authorized use only. By using this system, you acknowledge notice of and agree to comply with Advantage Home Care's Acceptable Use of Information Technology Resources Policy, AUP. Unauthorized or improper use of this system may result in administrative disciplinary action, civil charges, or criminal penalties, and/or other sanctions as set forth in Advantage Home Care's Acceptable Use Policy. By continuing to use this system, you indicate your awareness of and consent to these terms and conditions of use. Data classification policy includes data protection standard, social media policy, minimum access policy, password policy. Definitions and terms. If you need a refresher, the following definition and terms can be found in the SANS glossary located at https://www.sans.org/security-resources/glossary-of-terms/ blogging, honeypot, honeynet, proprietary information, and spam. Congratulations! You have completed the Advantage Home Care Acceptable Use training. If you have any questions about this training, please see your supervisor for clarification.